Hello guys and welcome back to the Time Bombardier channel, of course with your host the Bombardier. And I've got an unboxing for you today. It's not sort of one of those unboxings of a fresh hot off the press type release, but perhaps more of a matured viewing unboxing of the GA-2100, now that a lot of the hype around the watch has actually died down. So let's crack him open. Nice sort of stealthy box to go with a stealthy watch. Usual bump on the inside, not going to bore you with the details of that. And little tinny on the inside, reflecting the design on the box. A rustle of plastic, and voila, there she blows. Okay, so when it first came out, the sales of the GA-2100 were huge. People were buying up stock and then flipping them on YouTube, flipping them on YouTube and eBay for at least twice the price. Thankfully, things seem to have calmed down since then, which is great for the average punter because you can now pretty much get these as and when you want. Although looking on G-Shock UK today, I could still see that a lot of them were out of stock. I guess that might be around them, getting stock into the country. So just a quick sort of overview thought on that popularity of these watches. I mean, for me, I think initially the first popularity contest that this watch wins is that most G-Shocks are aimed at the sort of rough and tough market, whereas this one is quite clearly stroking other areas of the watch buying public. If you're not into rugged, then I think this one is going to appeal really quite easily, but still maintain all the functions and aspects of a G-Shock, which is probably what's brought you to the brand in the first place. Unlike other G-Shocks, the Octagons are not solar, they are not atomically connected, they're not connected to your phone, and they don't have things like step counters and compasses and blah blah blah. What they do have though is this Octagon design. G-Shock really went elsewhere with the design notebook here, and to me this Octagon design really works. Let me just spin the watch around here so that you can get a good view. Just going to pause there while I readjust the camera. So as I say, I think one of the other factors that make this watch appeal so much is the size. I've brought along a couple of other G-Shocks here to compare it with its cousin. First one up here is the Frog. I think the Frog is going to weigh at least double or triple, and it's also, as you can see here, an absolute chunk in comparison. We've got then the GBX, again, which is quite light but still not as light, and thin but still not as thin. Dial size is pretty similar. And then lastly, we've got the humble 5600, again, which has a slight octagonal design in that, although people refer to them as squares. But size-wise, again, the 5600 is heavier, and there we go. And depth-wise as well, I think the Octagon is also slightly lower profile. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Octagons are actually the thinnest G-Shocks available at the moment. In addition, as I mentioned, weight, it's super light. It's 51 grams only, which is virtually nothing. You pop it on wrist and yeah, you don't really notice you're wearing it. But you could imagine then a 3/16 steel equivalent of this design, which is probably closer to its design origins. And yes, you pop onto eBay, etc., and there are lots of options for buying new bezels and straps for these things in steel, etc., and other colours. And there's quite a few reviews here showing how people have modded them, and they do look quite interesting. Up onto the back here, pop the ticket out of the way. We can see it's referencing the carbon core guard. Now, essentially, for most people, what that means is the bumper that sits around the module inside was originally made of sort of like a resin. Now obviously it's got carbon around it, which reduces the overall weight, but still adds to that. But doesn't remove any of that robustness or shockproofness that bring most people to G-Shocks in the first place. The colorway on this one, obviously, as you don't need to explain, is the matte black, stealthy design. As I say, that matte black really works here. Sort of differentiate it between a slightly shinier version on this one of the 5600. You can see that aspect, much more muted. But having said that, of course, the octagons do come in a variety of colorways. I'm just going to pop up a shot here so that you can see. These are the ones that were available on the G-Shock UK website today. And little confession from me, never before have I ever thought about buying a yellow watch before, but for some bizarre reason that I can't honestly explain, the little bee, wasp, hornet design down there really appeals to me. Yes, someone called a shrink, the Bombardier wants to buy a yellow watch. Anyway, as a coming back to the black one, so a bit more light. Come on, where's the light factor gone? There it is. So anyway, as a non-solar G-Shock, from this one I'm reckoning you're going to get around 3 to 5 years battery life, of course, depending on how much you're using the functions down here, your world timers, your lights, etc. Looking more specifically at the dial, the hands only have there's only lume on those little sword hands. The hour markers themselves are not lumed, and the light only lights up your digi-display, as you can see here. I mean, it's a really nice blue light that fades quite nicely and very softly, but in the dark, as I say, the only thing that you're going to see, I'm going to pop a balloon shot for you now, are the hands. So it may not appeal to everyone as a consequence. The backup light, as I say, you can then also change the timing, so as you can on the GBX, between I think it's 1 and 3 seconds. For me, that little digi display is quite small. It put me off using it a little bit, but then you have limited functions, as they things like world time. While we're talking about the world time, quite an odd thing, when you're scrolling through the countries, you actually get the full name of the city, as opposed to just sort of like initials. So it takes a little while to sort of track through those options. If we're looking at the dial itself and then in more detail, one thing I really like is around the chapter ring you've got those the cut in sort of groove minute markers, and that chapter ring's got slightly shinier silver coloration to it, which I really like. It really stands out. Very subtle detail. And while we're talking about that, the minute hand on most of the Anadigis by G-Shock actually moves every 10 seconds, whereas on these octagons it actually only moves every 20 seconds. I don't suppose many people are going to pick up on that. I also don't suppose many people are going to worry about it. But yeah, it's just a clear distinction. There you go, you just saw it move. Just wanted to reference it for you. Coming back to the back, we've got 16mm lugs with quick release straps. So yeah, lots of options perhaps to swap out for other G-Shock straps, but it is going to limit you as a consequence because of that size to other watch strap alternatives. I imagine you can get some adapters, but it is going to extend that overall length of the watch. £99 for these watches. Yeah, it's clearly a sweet spot for many people. The stocks are shifting very quickly. So if you buy one and then in a couple of months you decide you want to change, you've changed your mind about the colorway or about the watch itself, you can pop it on eBay. It'll sell super quick. Not perhaps the same way as it would be if you bought yourself a Tag Heuer. I think another one of the success aspects of this watch is simply that it's a fun watch. I mean, most of my watches are not fun per se. They're mostly kind of tool watches and serious watches. So what G-Shock have done here is just create something, light-hearted, simple, fun, And I think with those additional colour options that you've got, then it's a truly honest watch that's very low maintenance. It's not a fussy watch in any way, shape, or form, and it's not sort of a watch for the watch snobs. It's humble. It's humility. Of course, you could say that it's not trying to be anything other than itself, but then, of course, I'm sure many people will shout, "Oh yeah, and what about the AP?" And why the fact that this is called the Casio-Oak, which in turn actually then reminds me of the Casi-Oak, suggesting perhaps a renaissance of the overall octagonal form for watches. I mentioned the size aspect being a winner. Just to run through the stats. So across there, we've got 45 mils across. You've got 11 mils in depth, and about 48 top to bottom. And I think, as I sort of focus a bit more on that dial, the stealth aspect of it, I think, is really, really cool. But it does affect overall legibility. Obviously, if we were looking at compare it to something like the GBX, I mean, legibility is like the USP for this watch, without a shadow of a doubt. But I don't think it is the USP for this Stealth Octagon. But then that's not what the watch is about. It's got other appeal. It's sort of, as I say, stroking you in a very different way. And I think that fun factor combined with the price point is going to make this a very easy choice for many, many people. So just before I wrap up, let me just give you a quick wrist shot. What are we sporting today? Sporting the Pingo, of which I did a review just the other day. This one still has the cellophane on the keeper, so I'm going to leave that on. But just wanted to try and give you a little bit of an oversight. It's not necessarily small at 45, but it is ridiculously light. Yeah, I mean, feather light, low profile, and yeah, super simple. And I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think the whole design concept here is going to attract a very different type of buyer to, say, somebody who's looking to buy a frog. The appeal factors are opposite ends of the spectrum. So all in all, to me, a seriously cool watch. Check back here in a month or so, you might find me reviewing the little beast thing version here also. But anyway, thank you YouTubers as always for your time and for viewing. Please do hit the notification bell down below, as apparently that's the thing that works now on YouTube. And as always, this is your host, the Bombardier, signing off until next time. Cheers guys, bye bye.